Hello.
Just a moment, please. Just connect this. Yeah. I think I'm audible. Fine. Okay. Hello everyone. Welcome back again to our channel Coders Arcade. So first of all, I just want to wish all our audience a happy Dasera, and especially to the Bengali community a happy Durga Puja. Okay. So Saturday will not be coming live. Therefore, I have preponed the live session from this Saturday to Thursday. Okay, that is today. So today we will be having a one-shot video or one-shot live session on what? A very important topic in any programming language. That is what? Exception handling. Fine. And we will be learning about exceptions, how to handle them, and in and out of all the concepts that are important in exception handling. Okay, and let me do one thing, guys. Just to see the comments, I will just have this in my mobile so that I can check whether you guys are commenting anything or not. Okay, yeah, fine. So as I said, guys, we will be learning about exception handling today, and the programming language here will be Java. As you know, I have been giving you live sessions on Java till now, and we have successfully covered till the OOPS concepts, and today I am going to start with exception handling, and this will be a dedicated live video on exception handling where we will be covering all the important concepts of exception handling that will be required for your interviews and for your day-to-day activities as a Java developer. Fine. So let's get started. First of all, the question that arises in everyone's mind. What are exceptions? Correct? Everyone has this very important doubt in their mind. Many people have a different way of addressing this or answering this, and after this class you will have a brief and concrete idea about what actually exceptions are. So may I ask you, what do you mean by exceptions actually? What actually are exceptions? How do you simply explain exceptions to anybody who even does not understand programming? How do you do that? And guys, if anyone is not able to listen, please make sure you comment that. And I hope the audio is okay and everybody is able to properly listen to what I am saying. Okay. So as I said, what actually are exceptions? Okay. Let's take a simple example. Say I will take a person. Okay. I will take a person called, say, Milan. Fine. And Milan has a home. And this is his home. And Milan is an engineering student. Just giving an example. And what he does is, he goes to a college. He goes to a college or university where he learns every day something, some topic. Okay, this is his college. It can be anything: BMSIT, VMSCE, Reva College, RV College, anything, etc., etc. So Milan is an engineering student whose day-to-day task is what? To go to the college, learn, and come back. Normal flow. Wake up in the morning, get ready, go to the college, learn something, and come back in the afternoon. Very simple. But sometimes it can rain, right? it can rain. At that time, will he be able to normally go to college and come back? The normal flow will be actually disrupted or disturbed, okay, because he has to do something to avoid the rain and go to the college. Correct? Understanding my point? So the best way to do it is what? Milan can take an umbrella, so that he can avoid the rain and go to the college, learn and go back. Understanding? What else can he do? Ignore my drawing, okay? He can take a raincoat and go. He can take a raincoat, wear it and go, so that he can avoid the rain. There are many ways to do that, right? Now the normal flow will be again restored when he uses an umbrella or a raincoat. So what do you understand by this? Anything that disturbs the normal flow of execution of your code is known as exception. Make sense? Anything that disturbs the normal flow of execution of your code is called an exception. Here, rain is the exception. And what is this umbrella? Umbrella is actually the handler. Similarly, raincoat is the handler. And the entire process of handling exceptions is known as exception handling. Now is it clear? If you tell this to anybody, they will understand. The process of handling exceptions in any programming language is known as exception handling. Anything that disturbs the normal flow of execution of your code is known as an exception. Okay? For example, let me write down the definitions so that it will be easy for you to understand. Okay? I haven't got any comments, so I'll continue with that. Okay? So as I said, the definition. Exception. Anything that disturbs the normal flow of execution of code is called an exception. Make sense? And the process of handling exceptions is called what? Is called, let's take a different color, exception handling. Okay, so please remember this. So what is the difference between exception and error? Very good question, XYZ. I'll come to that. See this. See, in your engineering life, you will have to learn lots of languages. Say, suppose you were learning exception handling in C, C++. Sorry, in C you will not be learning that because it is not an object-oriented language most of the times. So you will be learning that in C++. You will be learning that in Java, and you will be learning that in Python. Okay, I am just giving you the difference so that you can understand it once and for all. Okay, so in that case you have to understand the differences. See, in case of Java, exception handling can be easily understood or learned by learning 5 keywords. 5 keywords I am saying. Okay, let me write them. Sorry. So in Java it is, why is it, okay. It is the try keyword, the catch keyword, the throw keyword, the throws keyword, and the finally keyword. Okay. In Java, these 5 keywords will give you the exception handling concepts in a nutshell. Got it? Similarly, in case of C++, the try keyword, the catch keyword, the throw keyword, and please remember, someone can ask you in the interview, there is no finally block in C++. Okay, I had told you before, I guess. The finally block is not available in C++. So let me take a red mark and say in C++ this is not available, and that is a real challenge actually. And in case of Python, you write something like this: try, you don't write catch, you write except, and you write finally. And there is one more keyword called reach. We should not be focused on that, I am just trying to give you the difference. Okay. So the definition I told you, anything that disturbs the normal flow of execution of code is called an exception. The process of handling those kind of expression is called exception handling. Make sense? Now, in case of Java, there are 5 important keywords: try, catch, throw, throws, and finally. In case of C++, most of the times, common times, we use try, catch, throw, but there is no finally. See, I have highlighted that. In case of Python, we use try, we use except. Okay, except, there is no catch block. And then we have the finally block and we have raise. Okay, now XYZ, you have asked me one question: what is the difference between error and exception? Just a basic plain thing. Let's talk in our normal language only. I will tell you something like this. Here, say you were playing GTA Vice City. I am taking an example, okay, only an example so that you can understand that. And the memory required to install that in your system is around, say, 16 GB RAM. And you are trying to install, but your system only has around, say, 4 GB RAM, for example. Will you be able to install that? The minimum RAM supported for this game is 16 GB. And you are trying to install something which only supports 16 GB RAM or more. Will it work? The first thing that your system or your memory will say while installing is memory error. Okay, something like this. I have a 5 gram of something. In that, I am forcefully trying to insert 5 kg. No space. It will say out of space. Understanding? These are errors. I cannot handle them. Errors are something that can't be handled. Make sense? Errors are something that cannot be handled. You have to do something else so that you can avoid that. Okay, I have very less RAM. So in that case, I won't be able to install this game. I have very less space. I cannot put some extra thing in that. It will directly tell me that, the compiler or the machine will directly tell me that you are having less memory. How are you trying to do this? The best example is a website. The name. Stack Overflow. What does it mean? It means that in the stack, the maximum limit is 100. So I can insert 100 elements. Make sense? But as soon as I try to do it for the 101th element, the next element, it will say stack overflow. That means the stack is already complete. I cannot add elements. So errors, these are kinds of errors. Got it? Error is something that cannot be handled, but exception is something that can be handled. Yes? Okay. So errors are 2 types. You might be knowing XYZ. The first error is the compile time error. The second error is the runtime error. Makes sense? The compile time error and the runtime error. In the compile time error, what is actually that? Syntax. Anything related to syntactical errors are called compile time errors. See, if I am writing in Java int a equal to 10, I am not giving this semicolon. This will be a compilation error, right? If I don't give this semicolon, it will be a compilation error. It cannot be handled. There is no way the compiler is going to listen to you. You have to give the semicolon. Got it? These are called errors. It cannot be handled. You have to follow that rule. But in case of exceptions, you can handle them actually. Exceptions can be handled, errors cannot be handled. I hope now the doubt is clear. Okay? So, let's go ahead. If you have still any doubts, you can tell me XYZ. I will be clearing them, don't worry. Now, let's go to the next point. I said types of exceptions. Let's talk about them now. Types of exceptions. Right? The first one. Who can tell me? Can anybody tell me what are the types of exceptions that we have? The first one is checked exception. The second one is unchecked exception. The third one is custom. Custom or user defined exception. Okay, the exceptions that are actually created by us, these are called custom or user defined exceptions. Make sense? So, what are checked, what are unchecked? Now, let me give you a simple idea about that. What are checked, what are unchecked? The first one, rain. I know it is raining. I will take an umbrella. I will take a raincoat because I know that it is raining. Okay, but any natural calamity, I am not certain about that. It can be rain, it can be earthquake, it can be anything. Will it work if I take an umbrella or raincoat? It won't work. I have to be specific about that. So, when the type of exception is unknown, it is called unchecked exception, or you can say unknown also. In case of checked, it is actually a known exception. When you are certain about that, it is called a known exception. And the custom exceptions are what? We create them. As a user, I create an exception. It is called a custom exception based on my application that I will be doing. Fine. Now, one more thing that you need to understand here is the hierarchy. All the errors and the exceptions in Java are actually categorized inside a particular class. Can anyone tell me? Can anyone tell me, guys? Okay, can you guys tell me? All the errors and exceptions in Java are belonging to a particular parent class. What is the name of that parent class? Let me see. They all belong to a parent class called throwable. This is a very important question in placements. Which is the parent class of all errors and exceptions in Java? The answer is throwable. And which is the parent class of all classes in Java? It is the object class. So, throwable in turn again inherits everything from the object class. Okay? So, errors and exceptions belong to the throwable class. Throwable in turn refers the object class as a parent class. Fine? Is that clear? Now, yeah, XYZ says thumbs up. Okay, thank you that you have understood. Any doubt, I am telling you, right, any silly doubt, anything, just let's focus on them and clarify it in the class itself, so that we don't have to again come back and understand the same thing. Okay, if you don't understand, you can comment that and you can understand that later also. Don't worry about that. Okay, feel free to ask any silly doubt that you have in your mind. Now, as I said, errors I told you, right, runtime errors and compile time errors. Similarly, exceptions, checked, unchecked, and what? User defined. So, now let us do one thing. I will show you something in real time so that you can understand about that. I am saying calc. I will open the calculator in my system and I will just do something like this. I am saying 1 divided by 0. In mathematics, division by 0 is what? Infinity, right? Let me press equal sign. You can see here, right? Cannot divide by 0 is coming. So, who has done this? The person who has built this application has done this actually. The person, whoever, the developer who has built this calculator application for Microsoft has actually done this. Fine. Cannot divide by 0. When we divide 1 by something, any other number, it will give you a proper output, right? But in this case, this is an exception actually. So, this is happening like this. Let us do one thing. Let us create or replicate this problem again in the code. We will do that, don't worry. And at the same time, I will do one thing. I will just give you an idea of what and all we are going to cover today. Fine. We have learnt about exceptions, the basic idea, the definition. We have learnt about the types. Now, let us see the important use of the try, the catch, the throw, the throws, and the finally. Okay, and we will understand all of them one by one. So, let us take a simple example now. I will go back to my editor. Here in advanced, or let me create a new package called exceptions here. Fine. In this, let me take a new Java class called exception example. Fine. And exception example. Fine. In the main function, I will replicate the same kind of example. Let us see. I will say int a is equal to int I comma j comma k is equal to 0 I am writing. Okay. And after that I am writing I is equal to 10, j is equal to 20, k is equal to I divided by j. S out, the value of k is concatenation k. What is it saying? No, nothing. Okay, fine. Let me run this and let me just say this one, not 20, integer division, right? Let me take say 5. So, in that case, what do you see? 10 by 5, 5 4s are 20, there is nothing, no rocket science here, right? See, the value of k is 2, very simple as that. But what if we have a problem now? What if I try to divide by 0? I am dividing 10 by 0. What happens? In the earlier case, you guys saw that we had got the value of k as 2 because we divided 10 by 5, 5 to the 10. Now, in this case, in programming, we do not have infinity, right? So it will actually create an exception. Let's see how to do it. See this? See guys, exception in thread main.java.lang arithmetic exception. Okay, what is this? Divide by 0. But this is not the correct way to handle the exception, right? It is just throwing this. We are not handling that. Say suppose one user is coming to your application and typing a wrong password. This is not how we will intimate the user about, sir, you have done something wrong, or ma'am, you have done something wrong. Not like this. You will give a proper message to that person, right? How do you do that? You can easily do that by writing something like this. See, and you can also see guys one more thing. The default value of k was actually how much? If you see properly, the default value of k I have set to 0. Even that value is not printed. So this has abruptly ended our execution here. And after that you can see the value of k is 0 is not printed. So this is disturbing the normal flow of execution of the code. Understood? That is why it is an exception. What is the exception, by the way? It is this part. This part, the arithmetic exception. Remember this. This is actually a class. Okay, java.lang.arithmetic exception. Arithmetic exception is actually a class in the package java.lang. And how to handle that? So it says something like this. Try to do something. Okay, try to do something. If there is any problem in your application, in your code that you have written, then catch it in the catch block. What was the exception that we have got? We got arithmetic exception. Okay. Now the first one, I told you it is a checked exception. Why? Because I know that there is a mathematical calculation mistake in my code, which I have done it deliberately. Maybe you have not done that deliberately, but it can happen. So just put that into the catch block. Because this is a class, create the object. This is the syntax. E is by default. Okay guys, you can write A, B, C, D also, doesn't matter. This is also okay. But by default we always write E. So make sure you also follow the same syntax so that you are not confused. And you can just write S out. You can print the E value. That's all. The exception E. Okay. Now what will happen? Just see. Earlier we are not getting the default value 0. Now see this. See guys, at least a little bit better. No warning signals, no red lines. We got the exception printed. Divide by 0. And after that we got the default value k equal to 0. Understood? Now we have again restored the flow from the beginning to the end. Understood? This is how you can handle exceptions. This is a simple example of using the try catch block. Okay. Now, one more thing. Point. Interview questions. Okay, right? You guys are always worrying about interview questions. What can the technical interview people ask you? The first question is, by only looking at the code, not code, the output, can you guys tell me where exactly did I have the exception? It just says java.lang.arithmetic exception / by 0, divide by 0. Can you exactly tell me the line number by only looking at the output? Because sometimes what happens, you will not have access to some part of the code. Some classes may be hidden from you, it can be abstracted from you, but you should be actually able to tell the line number, because when you are working as a team, you might have to intimate the other part, other team 1, team 2, you might have to tell them that there is something wrong in this line number, please check the code or something like that. How do you get the exact line number of the exception is a very important interview question. How do you do it? You do it by using a command called print stack trace. Okay, please remember e dot print stack trace. Now see the output guys. Earlier if you see this, I did not have any line number of the exception. Now our exception is occurring at line number, if you see here, this line number is 8. Here it is occurring, right, because I am dividing by 0. So let's run this and see if we are able to successfully derive that line number or not. Guys, please have a look. At Java 8, this is the line number. The 8th line. Make sense? So print stack trace is a very good method to find the exact line number of the exception. Okay, please remember this. This is very, very important. Fine. I hope you have got a better idea about this. Now let's do one more thing. Rather than printing all these things, I'll just comment them, and for better understanding of the user, because the user does not understand what is divide by 0 or something, you can give a customized message like this. Cannot divide by 0. This should be a better message for the user, right? Rather than writing all these things. This part is for the developer actually, whoever is writing the code. For the end user, this should be the output or the display. Because you saw that in the calculator also, right? When I use the calculator and divided 1 by 0, you got this message, cannot divide by 0. So I am just trying to simplify the same thing here. Okay, I am doing the same thing here. I am saying cannot divide by 0. This is the best message that can be given to the user, because a user should be simply understanding what is happening to the application, not the code behind that. That's why this is one of the best messages that you can give to the user. Understood that? Keep it simple and short, guys. That is how your application actually goes up in the market value terms. Understood? Okay. So now let's do one thing. Now I hope you have understood about this right now. So try to do something. If there is any error in the execution of the code, it can be handled in the catch block. Okay. Now what kind of exception is this? I know it is a mathematical calculation mistake. So it is an arithmetic exception. Let's take one more example. I am taking an array is equal to, I am allocating memory dynamically of size say 5. Okay. So if an array has 5 elements, the indexes start from 0 to n minus 1, right? So let me allocate or let me assign a of 5. The indexes will be till 4, right? I am saying a of 5 equal to 10. Got it? There is an exception in this line, because my array can only have 5 elements, but I have actually assigned the value to the 6th element 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But do you think the code will reach this line? The code will never reach this line actually, because already I have an exception in this line. The compiler or the JVM will tell that, boss, go and correct this first, then only I will read this line. I am happy displaying this first, then I will go to this. Okay, see this how it works. It will only handle the first one, and see it doesn't even go to that line. So as soon as one exception arises in your code, it will stop the execution and it will go back to the other part. Okay, so what you do is you have to correct this. Say I am saying 10 by 10. Now this becomes 1. Now you see guys what happens. See, can you see here? Exception in thread mean array index out of bounds exception. Now this was not handled, so the execution again abruptly ends. The other exception was handled, this was not handled. So again the execution ends at this particular time. You can see index 5 out of bounds for length 5. That's why I said index 5 will only be there if the length of the array is 6. So this is actually working like this. I hope you have understood this now. Guys, let's do one more thing. I think, sir, what is the difference between finally and final? Very good question. And what if we have multiple exceptions in single code? Whether print stack trace. Good message. I'll come to that. Don't worry. All of these things will be covered today, guys. Don't worry about that. Okay. Just stay tuned. One by one, I will cover all of that. Fine. This you have understood now. And very good question, final and final year. Come to that, don't worry. Now, because I did not handle, what was the exception you saw here? It was array index out of bounds exception, right? So, I can have a multi-catch block like this, or I can have multiple catch blocks like this. I can have catch This time it is array index out of bounds. I'll create the object and then I'll say s out. Invalid array index. Okay, now run this. Understood this? Now I have handled that one also. Got it? So this is how it actually works. Now the next point. Please try to understand this. This is very, very important. We have talked about the catch. The first one is actually for the mathematical errors, arithmetic exception. The second one is for the array index out of bounds. These are all checked exceptions. What if I have an unchecked exception, guys? What will I do? In that case, let's see what happens now. What if you don't know the exception? As a fresher, when you are working in the companies, you will not know about all the exceptions. What should be your response, guys? The response should be very simple. Try to understand. I will take a catch block and say exception. This is the parent class of all exceptions. I told you, see, all the exceptions, the checked, the unchecked and the user defined, all these exceptions belong to the exception class. This is the one that I have highlighted here, and the exceptions actually belong to the throwable class. So what you guys can do is, you can do it something like this. See, exception E, and you can say S out. This should be your answer to your manager when you are a fresher, when you don't know about what has happened to your code. You can just say something unexpected happened. Makes sense. But because all the individual exceptions have already been handled, this scenario will not come. How do you make it come? Let me show you. Suppose I don't have this 2. I am deleting this 2. Now see the output. See, when you are not certain about the type of exception that you are encountering in your code, just use the base class of all exceptions, which is the exception class, and it will handle them. But someone might ask you, what if I place this on top, the base class on top, and put all the others here below this? Sorry. What if I cut them from here and paste them here? Doesn't work. When I put the base class of exception on top and put the individual ones below them, what actually happens? Why is it not working? The concept is very simple, guys. This class handles every single exception that we have. Why do I need the individual ones? The individual ones are also getting handled here itself. So either I will have them on top and the base class at the bottom. It is a top down hierarchy. The known ones will be at the top and the unknown ones will be at the last base class. Got it? This is how it works. Okay. In case of C++, the exception, any kind of exception is handled by a bracket with 3 dots. This is very important. Anyone is learning C++ should be learning this, how to handle any kind of exception by using this 3 dots. Okay. Sometimes it is asked in the interview, guys. So please remember that. Now let's go back. So as I said, it will be either not there or it will be at the top, the known exceptions, and the unknown exceptions for the exception class will be at the bottom. Now the next point. Yeah, I'll come to the doubts, don't worry, XYZ. I'm listening to that. So what I said, now we have understood a basic idea of the exceptions. Now let me give you one more thing. Okay, guys, what if I have an application where I am using a database? In an application, I am using database, I am using some files, any files, say txt, say Excel, say PDF, any kind of files I am using. After that I am using some resources, other resources also, some frameworks, etc., etc. But all of a sudden my code fails. I have all these files open and the code fails. Is it a good practice to keep them open? I have started all the resources. I should be releasing the resources, right? I should be closing all the files, right? This is very, very mandatory. So anything that is mandatory and has to be released is done in the finally block. Please remember that. All the memory releasing is done in the finally block. Any function that you want to close should be kept in the finally block like this. You can say finally yes out. You can say program terminated at the end. Just run this and see what happens now. See guys, no matter what happens to your code, the finally block is always executed, no matter what happens to your code. So no matter if your application is failing or there is some bug in your application, it doesn't matter at all. What happens? The DB, the files, the text files, the Excel, the PDF, everything can be closed inside in the finally block. So this is a mandatory block which is actually written after the try and the at the catch block, where we release all our resources. Is that clear? Please make sure you understand that. And now XYZ had told me one thing. Let me just tell you one thing here. You told me about final and finally. Finally is what? Finally is a block in exception handling finally is a block in exception handling which is written after the try and the catch block, where we release resources, or we can say we do some mandatory tasks. Okay, this is a block of exception handling. But in case of final, final is not a block. Final is a keyword. The final keyword can be used in case of a class, a method, in case of a variable, in case of a parameter. In all these cases, we can write the final keyword. What actually happens? When you write final in front of a class, it cannot be inherited, not possible. Method, it cannot be overridden. Variable, it cannot be changed. So that means what? It is a final variable or const, just like the const keyword in C or C++. Parameter, it cannot be assigned any new value. Okay. Finally is just a block in exception handling. Final is a keyword in Java which helps you to make a class final. That is, all these things are not possible. Okay, not possible. Make sure they are actually the reverse of possible. When you write finally, a class cannot be inherited. When you write finally, a method cannot be overridden. That means you cannot use polymorphism. When you write final in front of a variable, it becomes a constant variable. When you write final in front of a parameter, it cannot be assigned any value. Make sense? Whatever value is passed to the function, it will be a final parameter. It will not change. So these kind of things can be very important in the interviews. Guys, to be frank, in my first interview in TCS, this is the question that was asked. Okay. Finally, and there is one more thing. Finalize. Finalize is a function in the object class in Java used for garbage collection. I am telling you the whole question. Final is a keyword, finally is a block, and finalize is a method in the object class in Java used for garbage collection, which is done by the JVM itself. We don't have to bother about clutter in Java. The garbage or the clutter is destroyed by the JVM itself by using the finalize method in the object class in Java. Fine. I hope this clears your doubt. Learning. Yeah. Now I will come to some other points. Don't worry. One by one, gradually we will learn things. Now, just for example, let me give you an idea of this. Fine. Let me go back and show you something here. Exceptions, and in that let me just right click and new package called final keyword. Okay, so that I can give you some demo of that also. But before that, let me ask you a very important question which is very popular in the parent company of Java, which is Oracle. Okay guys, if you are dreaming of joining Oracle as a company, this is a very important question. Mind you, this is asked very frequently in the placement drives of Oracle, and they ask the question like this. If finally is a block where the resources are released or destroyed, or you can say terminated. Suppose I am done with the live session, after that I will switch off the laptop, the projector, everything, right? The smart board, everything I will switch off. Same thing, all the mandatory resources that were utilized will be shut down in this part, the finally block. Then where are they actually initialized? Can anyone tell me the answer? Let me see who can tell me the answer. If finally block is a block to release all the resources or shut down the resources, where are the resources actually activated or initialized? Can you tell me in Java, guys? Who can tell me the answer? I am waiting for the answer. The answer is static block. That's a very important concept in Java, and I bet you many engineering colleges will not even talk about that topic. The static block. Static block. The static block is a block in Java where all the resources are initialized. The internet connectivity, the files, the database, everything is started or kick-started in the static block. Let me show you. See here, this is my main function and this is the bracket here. See, this is the starting bracket and this is the ending bracket, right? After that, I am not doing anything. I am writing static and giving a bracket like this. Have you seen a block like this before in Java? Just comment me in the comment section who has actually seen this block before. You have seen the static keyword, but have you seen the static block before? I will show you a magic of this block. I will say S out, start of execution here. Let me run this. Even though it is at the bottom of the page, see the output. The start of execution is actually the static block, and let me write down here static block. Let me run this here. See guys, start of execution here. Understood? So all the resources in Java are initialized in the static block, always. Fine. So now I will do one thing here. Try to understand, okay? Please try to understand and focus on what I am saying right now. This is a very important interview question also for Oracle, because why am I saying Oracle all the time? You might be thinking. The point is, Oracle is the parent company of Java, and if you are really becoming Java developers, you should know about the parent company and how it works. So what I am trying to say is, they can ask you, is it mandatory to write main function in Java? Obviously, right? You need that. But guys, till version 1.6 of Java, Java 1.6, it was not mandatory. It was really not mandatory till version number 1.6. From version 1.7, the main method or the main function was actually made mandatory. Till 1.6, we used, when I was learning Java, we used the static block to run our code. It was running fine, absolutely fine. After that, the static has given a proper purpose now. It is used to initialize resources. Okay, but earlier it was used to run the Java programs also. So till Java version 1.6, it was not mandatory to use the main method. From 1.7, it is a rule to use the main method as the entry point of your code. Okay, earlier it was not mandatory. Please remember that. And there is one more thing that you have to remember. There is one more thing that you have to remember, which is I will just give you a brief idea, okay? Not so important, but still sometimes you can get this question in the placements. IIB. What is IIB? Have you heard this in Java, guys? Have you heard this concept in Java? IIB is called instance initializer block. This is also an important concept in Java, but sorry to say, this is not taught in VTU, but it is asked very frequently in the placement types. Okay, static block starts how do you start a static block? We write like this, static with a bracket. How do you start a IIB? Instance. What is instance? Instance means an object, right? So anything for the object is written here, IIB. IIB is just like this, blank curly brackets, nothing else, blank curly brackets. Okay, so guys, just a moment, we'll change the battery and come back again, okay, because the battery is draining out very quickly. Just a moment, guys. Okay, I hope I am back. Yep. So as I said, only plain empty curly brackets is called an IIB or instance initializer block. Let me show you how to use it. Okay. See here on the top, I am writing a bracket like this. Crazy, right? This is called a IIB, instance initializer block. So, I will say S out IIB 1, this is the first IIB, and after this static block, or before, let me say before only, I will give one more bracket and say S out IIB 2. Okay. Now, let me run this. Do you anywhere see the IIBs printed? Even though I have them in the code, you can see here, right? I have one IIB here and I have one IIB here. IIB1 and IIB2. Are they getting printed? They are not getting printed because they belong to the instances. As long as we don't create an instance, they are invalid. They will just be stagnant there, they will not work. Just like a function, you have to call them. So, but the static block does not need to be get called, okay? That's why it is used for initialization of resources. And the finally block also does not need to be get called. It will be called automatically if the compiler finds it. So, all the resources are terminated here, got it, shut down here, because it is mandatory. When this is done, it will automatically find it and do all the necessary stuff that is written inside that. Similarly, IIB is something that is created for the objects. So now what I will do is, let me write down here like this. How do you create an object? We write like this, right? Class name object equal to new class name. So it will be exception example object is equal to new exception example. Correct, something like this. But trust me guys, this is actually why I love the Java language, because it is not always mandatory to write like this. You can write the syntax also. Only by using the new keyword you can call the constructor, not even needing the object. So you can press dot. If you have any functions, you will get access to the functions also. Whatever methods you have defined, you will get access to them also. Now I have created the constructor, call the constructor. Okay, now see the output. Can you see this? What is the order of execution now? Start of execution is the static block, then we have the IIBs, then what do you have? The other things in the main function, but not always like that. What if I had created this object here after everything? Say I'll close this, and after this I am creating this here, say paste this here, okay, at the end of the main function, the last line. Now everything in the main will be executed first, then the IIBs will be printed, okay. So you have to be careful of the hierarchy. See here. So what is the execution process? The static block first, then if I have the IIBs or the constructor created, then IIBs will be done, then the main function content. Otherwise, if I have the main function content in the beginning, they will be printed, then it will go to the IIB. But always the static block will be executed first. Clear? And one more thing, the finally block comes after the main function catch blocks have executed. You can see program terminated at the end. This is coming from the finally block. Guys, hope this has cleared all your doubts about how the hierarchy is, and I hope you have learned two new concepts today. The static block, how it is used, and also how the instance initializer blocks are used. Okay, these are for objects. Any data that you want to pass on to the object is given in the IIB. Okay, instance initializer block. Please remember that. This is a very important concept. Fine. And yeah, learning has also come. High learning. XYZ and learning. At least I have 2-3 students who are actually coming regularly and understanding from my classes. Thank you for all the support. Okay. Now we'll do one thing. We have understood about all these things. Now we'll do one thing. As I said, I have created the final keyword package. Here I will just say new Java class, say final class. Fine. A class called final, and I am saying final here. Nothing is there in that class, okay. I am just trying to show you an example, because XYZ had asked me this doubt, like what is the use of the final keyword. I said that when you write final, this class cannot be inherited. What is the keyword for inheritance? Extends keyword, right? So here I am writing, say class, I will take XYZ's name only, XYZ. I will say extends, and if I write final class, see what it says. Cannot inherit from final. What did I say? A final class cannot be inherited. So anything that you don't want someone else to inherit can be made final. A class can be made final like this. Okay. Just a simple example. Similar ways you can create a method like this. Say I am not writing final here. Okay. I am not writing final here. I am just doing this. Final void data. I am saying S out XYZ. The method is final. What I will do is, now extension is fine, right? Because this class is not final. Now see, I said overriding is not allowed. So I will copy this part, or let me say void data bracket. See the error, guys. Cannot override data because it is final. Understood? These are the things that I have given you earlier. Okay, so for you it is very mandatory to remember these things. If a class is final, it cannot be inherited. If a method is final, it cannot be overridden. Similarly, variable, it becomes constant. I cannot give any value after that. Okay, let's see. I'll try to give a value here. You will understand. Int data is equal to, or let me say int d is equal to 10, and let me say final here. After that, I'll say d is equal to 20. You cannot assign it. This becomes a constant value. You can see it's an error here. Understanding? These are the uses of the final keyword. There are lots of other uses, but the 4 important uses are this: class, method, variable, and parameter. Understood this? I hope this is clear now. Fine. Now let's do one thing. Yeah, learning says even I will do this. Okay. So thank you guys for all your support. Okay, because otherwise, only by looking at the camera we cannot just keep on teaching, right? We have to get some responses from the students, and it is really appreciable that you guys are actually responding and asking lots of doubts. Fine. I hope XYZ now and learning also, you have understood the difference between exception and error. You have understood the difference between final and finally, and also you have understood about multiple exceptions in the same code, how to handle them. Okay, and now there are so many other things that we have to handle. Okay, don't worry, we'll come to that one by one. We'll come to all of them. So I'm going back, and let me just hope this is clear to you about the final. And what I'll do, I'll just comment this so that it does not clash with any of the other things. And now guys, you have understood about the static block, the finally block, and the IIBs and all. Got it? Now let's do one thing. Let's try to understand about something called a multi-catch block. I'll just give you simple examples so that you can remember them. Okay, so that, and guys, when you are writing your code, then only you will understand how actually these things work. So you have to practice code again and again every day. Then only you will be actually properly understanding about the concepts. Fine. So as I say every time, please write more code. Try to debug the code. Then only you will learn. So as I said, I will take one thing. I will take the try block directly. Okay, I will say try int a is equal to 10 divided by 0, and I will say string what str is equal to null. Fine. Okay, just a moment. Okay, what I'm doing is, I'll say first I'll catch this exception. What is the first exception that will come here? Divide by 0 exception, right? So arithmetic exception. Okay, and e, and here I'll just say s out. E, just printing the message. Or you can say e dot, there is something called get message. Let's see what it gives. See, only the message it is giving, not anything else. What is actually the exception? That is it, that it is giving. Understood? Similarly, what I can do is, if I comment this, I am having one more exception. Guys, this is a worst exception that a Java developer can encounter in his or her code. Null pointer exception. Why is it called null pointer exceptions? Because anywhere in the code something has become null out of any miscalculations. It will not be shown. That's a very difficult kind of exception to handle. make sure all your variables are initialized properly and all your values are not null most of the times. Okay. So, here for this one what I will do is I will use a pipe symbol and write null pointer exception and object like this. See, this is called a multi-catch block, where one exception, one more exception, you can have lots of other exceptions followed by this. You can also have this exception like this, but actually this handles everything, right? I should not be writing this here. I can take IO exception for files, input output exception like this, and but this is not relevant in this case, right? What can I take? I can take array index out of bound exception. This is okay, possible, fine. And let me optimize the inputs. See here guys, when a catch block is written with pipe symbols followed by multiple exceptions, it is called a multi-catch block. And see the output, this time it will be empty. So, what I will do, rather than writing e.guess message, I will write e, and let us run this and see what we get. Or because I have only initialized that, I have not done anything to this, right? So, let me do one thing, let me print it s out, let me print the length. The length is actually null. So, let me try to print the length of that string. Now, see the output, the length is actually null, there is nothing in the string, right? See, what does it say? Cannot invoke string.length because str is null. So, now we are getting that message, null pointer exception. Understood? So, this is called a multi-catch block. Okay, and static block inside main method. Static block inside main method should not be used, but very good question, right? Let us try to do this. Learning, let us try to do this. Good question, let us try to do this. I will show you something so that you can understand that about that. Okay, what I will do, let us write a static block. As you said, let us write a static block here. See the thing that it says. It says identifier expected. What does that mean? That means the main method is already static. Inside that we should not be writing anything like that. Understood? The main method is actually used to call some other static things. Say static void display. I want to call that method. I can directly call it here. What I am trying to say is static void display. So, here I can directly call this display. Makes sense? That is what is the static keyword meaning here. So, that means we cannot actually do this here like this, but what we can do is we can write something like this. If I say static int data is equal to 10, see, that is also not allowed here. Understanding it, we should not be doing it because main method is already static. Inside that, if we write something static, how can we call that? We will not be able to call that. So, static block is a totally different concept, and static data should be actually in the class level, in the main top level class. I will show you here so that you can understand. This is also a very important task. So, let us try to understand this. Okay, see here. I have static int x, fine, is equal to 10. No problem at all. This I can have. I have already shown that in the object oriented classes. Now, I have static final int x is equal to 20. Let me not write x because it will clash. Y equal to 20. No problem at all, right? Now, final means what? It will be not changed, but say suppose I have written something like this and not initialize this. This is a very important question in the interviews. Static final int, a integer, a variable is final also, a static also, and not initialized also. People can ask you, interviewers can ask you, where do you initialize this? this will be initialized in the static block. So y is equal to 10. Got it? Learning, please remember this. A static variable which is constant and not initialized, it is final and not initialized, will be initialized in the static block. But a variable which is final, int, z, not initialized, where should this be initialized? Very, very, very important question. A variable which is final but not initialized should be initialized in the constructor. Please remember that. Okay. Multicast block is the constructor. I will give a bracket and say z is equal to 1. The error is gone. Understood? I hope now again you have learned some new concept. This kind of questions are very frequent in the interviews. If a static variable is initialized, that's absolutely fine. If it is not initialized, if it is static, final and some variable, it should be initialized in the static block, which should be outside the main method. XYZ, learning, everyone please remember this. Okay. At the same time, if a variable is final and not initialized, it should be initialized in the constructor. Make sense? Please remember these two concepts, it will help you a lot. Fine. I hope you have understood all of them. Now next thing, you have learnt about the multicast block also, you have learnt about all the concepts also. Now let's go to one more thing. Let's talk about the throw keyword. Where do you use the throw keyword? Okay. Two more things we have to cover, so I will do that. Right click, I will talk about the throw keyword. Okay. So I have static int, I have a function called check age and it will take the age of the user and then it will say if the age is greater than equal to 18, this is absolutely fine. The person is eligible to vote, there is no problem at all. So I will say s out, what? I will say eligible for voting. No problem at all. But what if it is not? What if the person is not eligible to vote? 17, 13, 11, 10. In that case, we can throw a new exception like this. Throw new, see, we can throw any kind of exception. Just like a warning message. Okay, say suppose runtime exception. Here I am writing invalid age, space, access denied. Let me give a space here. Understood? And after that, rather than writing integer, I should not return integer, right? Let me write void. Okay. And in the main function, what I will do is, I will just call the check age function and pass 18. So 18 is well and good, right? There should be no problem in this. See the output now. Eligible for voting. But guys, see suppose I am passing 10. This person is not eligible to vote. See the output now. See the message, exception in thread. What is the exception? We had thrown a runtime exception. What was the name of the exception? Invalid age, access denied. See, it has been in this color like a warning. Got it? When you want to throw custom exceptions, most of the times in Java, we'll be using the throw keyword to throw new exceptions. What kind of exceptions? It can be any kind of exceptions. Make sense? This is the best use of the throw keyword in Java. Understood this? Now, I just don't want to finish it off very soon. I have two more topics to discuss. So, let's discuss them. Then only we'll wind up. Okay? Don't worry about that. Fine. So, hope you have understood about the throw keyword. Now, let me also talk about something called nested exceptions. Exceptions. Then last we will learn about the throws keyword and then we can wind up. Fine. So what I do, I'll just take my main method and I'll say try. Here I will have try. See, try inside try I am having. Understand that? I am saying int a is equal to what? Say suppose something like this, 10 divided by 0. Got it? And catch, I am saying what is the exception? Arithmetic exception, e, and then s out, e dot get message. Got it? So this exception will be handled by this try block. Now after this, here I am having an integer array is equal to new int of 5. Here I am saying ARR of 5, just like the earlier one I am saying 10. Not possible, right? So try to understand this try block, inner try block is actually inner plus. Got it? The inner try block is actually handled by this catch block, and I am getting this message from the inner. And the outer try block, this is the scope, the bracket to bracket. Here I am writing a catch. What is the exception here? Array index out of bounds exception. E, here I will say S out, outer plus E dot get message, just for you to see the message what is there. Understood? So there can be nesting of exceptions also. The inner catch block holds the inner exception, the outer catch block holds the outer exception. Run this and see the output. See, the inner is giving the divide by 0 exception, the outer is giving the index out of bounds exception. Make sense? This is how you actually handle nested exceptions. Very simple example to understand. I just wanted you to know the syntax. Make sense? So this is how you will understand about that. Please make sure you revise them and practice them on your own. Then only you will be able to utilize them in your day-to-day activities. Okay? And right now I don't see any doubts, so I think everything is fine. So the last concept in exception handling is very important. So I will not take much time, but this is very important, and also many colleges will not teach you this. So this is a very bonus thing for you. I am giving you. It is called try with resources, and for 10 LPA plus packages, guys, this question is asked very frequently in the face-to-face rounds, and also in some interviews you will get. In the coding rounds also you might get this. Okay, so please make sure you remember this. This is what I am giving you as a bonus, because I can guarantee you many colleges will not teach you this concept. Okay, so please stay tuned till the last of the video. And today I have not told anyone to subscribe, but I am telling you now, please guys, if you are new to the channel, subscribe to the channel and don't just go away like this, because 80% of the subscribers are the previous subscribers, but the latest one who are coming, they are not subscribing, they are just going away blindly. Okay, this is not a good thing to do. Please motivate us. Please motivate us by subscribing to our channel. Okay, thank you, because we are putting a lot of efforts to bring better content to you. Thank you. So as I said, try with resources. Try to understand what it is. I will show you something very interesting here. Okay, guys, till now you will have been taking input through the buffered reader, right? Sorry, the scanner class. The scanner class you might have been using for the input and output operations. I will show you how to use the buffered reader. let's see how to use this. I will say exceptions. This example will be the throws keyword. Here in the main function, I will create the buffer reader object. The package is java.io, input output. Okay, this is a very important class in Java. It is used for many operations. Okay, so buffer reader, I am taking br is equal to null. Fine, I am initializing the buffer reader to null in the beginning. Fine, after that, let us say try, or let me write a string. I will try to read a string input str, and I am not initializing that to anything, I am just keeping it blank. Now I am saying try, and to create the object of the buffer reader, you write the syntax like this. In scanner, you write scanner sc equal to new scanner system.in, but the buffer reader has a very different kind of hierarchy. I have to initialize the input stream reader. Here I have to write system dot in. Okay, this is the syntax of initializing the buffer reader. Please remember this. This is very, very important. Now I will say sout, enter any value, and let us catch the exceptions. Catch exception e and say sout e. Okay, and always remember, in scanner class we wrote something like this, the scanner.close. This is a resource, so I have to close this, and I told you which block is used to close the resources. The block is finally block. Finally I will say br.close, and see here I am getting a warning here. I will come to that, don't worry, but before that let me just do one thing. I will say str is equal to, in the buffer reader we have a built-in function called read line to read each line. Okay, so I will say br.readLine. You can see here, right? Fine, and say suppose I am eliminating this, and say suppose not writing this finally block and not giving this catch block also. See, I am getting an exception, or I am getting a warning. What if the user does not provide any input? It will throw an exception, right? What does it say? See here, unhandled exception, java.io, input and output. What if the user does not press any key on it? It does not give any input on it. It will throw an exception, right? So in order to suppress that, in order to handle that kind of exception, we use a throws keyword. You can write a try catch, or guys, you can also write throws. Throws. What is the type of exception? It is input and output exception. Got it? So IO exception, and I have this warning line. Just see here, it will be gone. Got it? So whenever you want to suppress the exception at the method body itself like this, we use the throws declaration. Okay, after the name of the method, after the parenthesis, you write throws, that particular type of exception. Clear? This is where you use the throws keyword. Now I will again write down the catch block, and here I will write exception e and say sout e, and I will say finally br.close. Fine. Let us run this and see what is actually happening. And after reading the line, let me say sout value, not value, let me write data to be more efficient. Data is plus str. Let us run this and see. Benefit is, if I press any enter key also, that is also read as a input. See, data is in empty, but if I pass, say, my cameraman's name, Milan, even that will be taken. Got it? Thanks to him, I am coming live in front of you. Okay. So you can see here, this is also red, even an empty character is also red. Got it? So the throws declaration is used to suppress the warning at the method signature itself. But my point is, I told you I will teach you something called try with resources, right? Now comes the question. The question is, can a try block exist without catch and finally? Can a try block exist without catch and finally? I am deleting this. You can see there is a warning. There is a very important warning here. What does it say? Catch or finally expected. If I run this, see the error. It says try with catch, without catch finally, or resource declarations. This is the part I am talking about. So if someone asks you in the interview, can a try block exist without catch and finally? The answer is absolutely yes, it can. Okay, how? That's my point. Correct. How will you understand about that? The simple and precise point is, what is the resource that you are using here? The resource is our buffer reader. So just remember this, guys. This is asked very frequently in high level interviews, 10 LPA and more. Trust me on this, you will not get this kind of questions in TCS or Accenture. Not at all. They will not ask you this kind of questions. Even Infosys might not ask you this kind of questions. It has to be a very high level interview. Then only, if someone knows in and out of the concept, then only they will be able to answer all these things. Okay. So now, as I said, the resource that you are using is our buffer reader, right? So I will copy this resource. The whole thing I will copy. See, from here till here I will copy. And before that, let me tell you what is try resource. When we have a try block with a bracket like this, it is called try with resource. Okay. Now let me copy the resource from here. This is my resource. Copy, paste, and I will initialize this properly here. Let me copy this and paste it here. See, and let me remove this br equal to null. See, and let me remove this semicolon as well, not required. So you can see in the try block only we have passed on a resource, the whole resource, and close this. Run this now. Let's see if there are any changes. Do you think any changes are there? Not there, right? If I press enter, it works fine. If I run this again, if I say hello, works absolutely same, doesn't matter. If I take subscribe, absolutely the same, no changes. Understood? This feature is called try with a particular resource. The resource is passed in the try block. Now the second part of the question, which can give you even more higher packages, is that if I don't have a finally block, where is the resource getting closed? Say suppose I am writing br.close. This is grayed out. You can see all the others are highlighted properly. This is grayed out. And if you see here, redundant close it says. Why so? Why do I not read the close command here? This is a very important question. Why do I not need it? For this, you have to know the hierarchy of the buffer reader class. Please remember that. Okay. Just control and click. Remember, press the control key and click. I'll control and click on our resource, which is the buffer reader. And if you see here, what does it say? The buffer reader extends the reader. Extends means reader is a class, right? Control and click on the reader class. What does it say? The reader implements readable and closable. So these are what? Interfaces. Now let's go to the closable class or interface. What does it say? Closable extends auto closable. So if something is auto closable, why do I bother about closing that? So buffer reader is a resource which is auto closable. We don't have to forcefully close that. Okay, see the hierarchy again. Buffer reader extends the reader class, the reader implements the closable extends the auto closable class. Okay, this is the hierarchy. That is why the buffer reader is a very important resource in Java, which actually helps you to do input output operations in a very efficient manner. Okay. So I hope you have understood about all the concepts in exception handling from beginning, from the scratch to all the advanced questions. Okay. Fine. So I hope you have understood everything. Now guys, there is one very good news for you that I want to tell you, and if anyone is watching the video till the end of the lecture that I am giving right now, I am bringing forward a very good news for you. If all of you are actually watching my videos, you have to comment back this thing whether it is a good news or not. Okay, the point is, from Monday we are starting our Java live sessions daily evening, the DSA Java live sessions. Okay, from scratch. We'll start with arrays, we'll go to the searching and sorting algorithms, and gradually we'll go on to all the data structures that you have learned in C++ in Ashank Sir's class. We will also learn them in Java, okay, in a dedicated day-to-day live sessions in our YouTube channel. But I want all of you who have watched the video to comment that, then only it will be done. And I promise you, you will not be, what to say, you will not be disappointed with the sessions. Okay, I promise you the DSA that you will learn in Java from Monday will be a very good session, and each day you will be learning a lot of new stuff. Okay, algorithms, time complexities, solving interview questions, we will be doing all of them one by one. Okay, so I want all of you to give a thumbs up to this video, and let me just say that you have understood everything about the concepts by just saying, sir, we have understood well. That's all I want to know. Okay, and if you are new to the channel, please subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon, because that will help you to receive notifications about our latest updates. Thank you. And at the same time, wish all of you and your families a very happy Dasera. Thank you.